Tonight we have a special guest that I just found out was coming today. So I'd like to introduce Catalina Locke. She's going to be running for 11th Congressional District. And so we're going to let her speak for just a couple minutes just to give you a little heads up on what she's going to be doing and where she's at. So Catalina?
Hello everybody, how's everybody doing tonight? Good, it's so nice to see faces again. You know, it feels like it's been forever since we were able to come together, and even hearing the prayer was pretty powerful, because we live in a world now where they were trying to shut down our churches, trying to keep us from being together, and it's just so nice that a year later we're here, we're all survivors, and we're able to be together and to be able to worship in a small sense. And most of all, be here because we all care. We all care about freedom and liberty. And that's primarily what's at stake. You know, sometimes, I know I wake up and I'm like, gosh, are we living in an Orwellian novel? Right. Things seem to be getting darker and darker by the month. We're seeing, of course, what happened to small businesses during the pandemic, to families, people not being able to be together because of government control. Now we're seeing the more authoritarian side of that, where people are losing their jobs because they refuse to comply with government-forced mandates. We're looking at $1 trillion deficit now in our economy. We're looking at things like critical race theory and defunding the police. These issues are not just Republican and Democrat anymore. This is beyond party lines. And I'm so proud to be here. We just announced our campaign. We're taking on Democrat incumbent Bill Foster. Yeah, you know, the Democrats get pretty greedy in this gerrymandering process, trying to appease a lot of people, and left a lot of the seats pretty vulnerable now. So it's going to take a lot of support and a lot of good candidates in these seats to be able to make change, because where we're going, not only in our state, but in our country, is not where we need to be. So I won't take any more of your time here, but I am so excited to get to know all of you. You may or may not even be in the district, but just the fact that you all care, you're here, you're patriots, and we're really fortunate that people like you all are showing up. You're doing the work. You want to be precinct captains. You want to go out and help with petitions. You want to volunteer. You want to help support, because this is what it's going to take. It's going to take the next generation and a revolution, in a sense, of people, of patriots who just care about our country, who care about the state. And it really shows just by showing up on your, what are we, Thursday, Wednesday? I can't even,
Thursday.
Starting to know what day it is half the time. But that you're here on your Thursday night, taking time away from your families and, you know, your everyday lives to show up. So that means a lot to candidates like myself, but it means a lot to your fellow Americans who ultimately, it's going to be up to us to take this country back. It's going to be up to us to take this state back. So thank you all. Hope to meet everybody, and God bless you. And Merry Christmas. And we don't
Okay, tonight we have Jed Davis speaking with us tonight. He's from Parkview School, and he's going to tell you what they encountered trying to go mask optional, or they are mask optional, I believe. And also, he is running for state rep for the 75th. So thank you for running. So Jed, and we will be holding all questions at the end. So when he's finished, we'll take questions at that time. So thank you very much, everyone.
Hey, great. Thanks for having me. It is fun to be here. I am from Newark. I don't know if anyone knows where Newark is other than Chris, because he was my senator at one point. Has anyone ever had kumla? I remember Chris dishing out kumla at the good old Norwegian kumla dinner. If you don't know what kumla is, it is like a potato ball covered in wallpaper paste. It sounds disgusting, but it is actually really good. So again, enough of that small town talk. But I'm Jed. I am the board president of Parkview Christian. I've been involved there for quite a while, more than a decade. have grown up in Newark and Lisbon and just been in the Kendall County area really for 5 generations. So I've been around for a while in that neck of the woods. Married my high school sweetheart 21 years ago. We've got 4 kids, 18 to 4. One of them we've adopted out of foster care, which is a whole nother story in dealing with the state of Illinois. It is an insane system that needs some love in more ways than one. But man, my daughter she's a joy. We love having her, and that journey that God took us on is such a blessing, the way that he connected the dots in only ways that God can. But in the Parkview world, right, and you go back, I'm just going to kind of share that story, and maybe it'll just help provoke some questions and context to all of it, and why am I running? And I really just want to start with the whole why, right? Why would you take the stand that you did, or why are you running for state rep? And there's a great story in Scripture. It's in 2 Kings 18, and it is the Assyrians. And if you know history at all, the Assyrian Empire is a ruthless empire, right? Like stacked severed heads outside of gates so that people know, hey, wow, take heed, the Assyrians have been here. They just wiped out Israel, and now they are on the offensive to Judah. They've captured several of their cities, and they're at the capital walls of Judah. So like, who wouldn't be panicked, right? The Assyrians are at your capital wall, ready to overtake you. King Hezekiah, in his panic, strips the house of God of all the gold and silver to send out a tribute to the Assyrians. He's going to pay them off in good old Chicago fashion, right? He's going to pay them off, and hopefully they go home, they go away. And who here, right, we probably know, a lot of us know the story, who here thinks they actually went home, right? They didn't go home. They took the tribute and solidified their position and prepared to overtake the capital city. Thankfully, in the middle of the night, the Lord intervened. So that is a great outcome, and we could all use that divine intervention. But I love the correlations to that, because just to pay the government, right, a tribute, and they'll leave you alone. Just pay the Assyrians this tribute, and they'll all go home, and we can just live our life like we have forever, right? We can just be Americans and be left alone. But man, the government is great at never going away. I always call them, what about Bob, right? They are at your doorstep, always there, over and over. Just wear the mask, right? And it will eventually come to an end. Just pay this one more tax, just one more tax, a little bit, it's going to help whatever down the road, and then we won't ask for any more. And you could go on with the correlations of pay the tribute, and your family will be okay. Just forfeit that right, and you can live free, theoretically. Man, I just am so cautious of that, because I don't ever believe that coming from the government. And back in the summer of June 2020, you know, COVID, we all, myself included, and maybe I'll get tomato thrown at me for saying this, but the first 30 days, right, of JB's executive orders, this is like in March. Okay, we'll give him the 30 days. Okay, it's an unknown thing. We're not sure what's going on, but then the 30 days became another 30, and another 30, and another 30, and now we're in the summer, and it is like, okay, this has got to end. Like, where's the end in all of this insanity? And then they come out with the guidelines for schools. And we just had hired, God's got a sense of humor. He is a great man, and I love him. And I'm so thankful he's part of Parkview. But we just hired a public school educator, and I'm a graduate of Newark High School. So I'm not knocking public schools at all. My whole family and previous generations are byproducts of that. But we had just hired a 36-year public educator to be our superintendent at Parkview. And now, so for 36 years, he does whatever the state tells him to do, right? Because that's what you do as a superintendent, and that's half the issues of the schools that we have here. But man, now we're pushing him like, hey, we're not listening to any of this stuff, Ray. Like, just throw it in the garbage. And he's like, what are we doing? So there's a lot of interesting conversations behind the closed doors of Parkview to get to where we are today. But man, they came out with these guidelines, really thick, insane guidelines that, in my opinion, were written to really prevent schools from returning in person. They were really trying to push remote learning. We have farm communities out in my neck of the woods that are low populations, and they went remote for like 9 to 8 months, practically the entire school year, because these guidelines are written in such a way that they're impossible to meet. And we just said, we're not doing it. You know, we're not doing it. Like, we're not doing it. So we sent the state a letter, the Department of Public Health and the State Board of Education a letter just saying, because we could have very easily, I know private schools that I'm not knocking them, but you could very easily just kind of fly under the radar and kind of keep it in quiet. But we really wanted to be upfront and honest and just say, you know what, we appreciate the guidance, but we're not going to do it, and we just kind of want to let you know to open the dialogue. There was no dialogue, right? I expected a phone call, maybe, an email, a letter, something. Instead, there was the Secretary of State Police. He's serving your tax dollars at work a really thick lawsuit, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages for a little private school in Kendall County. So JB sued us and one other school. The whole state of Illinois, 2 schools had the backbone to stand up and say we're not doing it. And he took both of those schools to court. And believe it or not, we lost, right? You would love to have this be a great sunset story. It gets there. We get to the sunset. But August of 2020, I'm walking out of a courtroom in Sangamon County. We ended up in Sangamon County. I wonder why. And we're sitting there, and to the judges, you know, it's August of 2020. It's not August of 2021. So it's just a different mentality. And I think, this isn't the judge's words, I think she was afraid to be that judge, to be the one that just bucked the system, and then something did go off the rails, and now she's hung out to dry because she's the one that allocated the freedom. I don't agree with her ruling whatsoever. I'm just trying to think through her head, and why in the world would she do this? And I'm sitting in my car, supposed to drive back up north. We're supposed to start school tomorrow. We have hundreds of families enrolled under the preface of mask optional, and we just got told by a judge, guess what, you got to listen to the governor. And I just stared at my windshield. I've never felt more alone in my life, like I just didn't want to go anywhere. This really sucks, right? And we have those moments in life where we are just kind of beat down and just, like, man, why? I feel like I'm doing the right thing. This doesn't make any sense to me that we are losing these freedoms on something that my child has to wear all of this crazy mandate stuff just to attend class. Like, it's nuts. Now, fortunately, between everyone here in this room, it's never about what Parkview is doing in the hallways. We never had anyone come check us, like, what are you doing? Are you really complying? It was all about maintaining the illusion of control across the state so that the governor could have his storyboard up from his press releases that look at Judge X, Y, and Z support what I'm doing. I'm on the right side of the law. He didn't want to lose that control. So we took a little liberty, maybe in that ruling within the halls of Parkview, just because we needed to maintain peace within the families that were there and make sure we're around for another year to continue that fight. But man, it was an insane time, and now you go forward a whole year, right? Remember, what about Bob? You would thought this nightmare would be over. And here, a year later, it's like we're dealing with the same madness that we were a year ago. And I just can't believe it. And we, again, and this time our superintendent is all in. You know, we've been with him for a year, and he is all in with us on this stuff, because I think there is so much more at stake than just mandates. The intrusion of just crazy curriculum, you know, critical race theory, sex ed standards, stuff that is coming into the schools There's so much more at stake that you have to say, no, not an inch more, we're not doing this, or it never ends. So we, a year later, went on the offensive, because now the state magically finds a solution, right? So a whole year has passed. Nothing has changed, right? The legislature has been dormant forever, right? They have rarely met. They're not doing anything on the mandate stuff, and they're just letting the executive branch run wild and whatever orders he's signing. So there's nothing coming out of that. So nothing has changed. The state, remember, in the summer of 2020, drug us into a courtroom because they said they had no legal remedy. They didn't have any legal means to make us comply, so they needed the judge to say, Parkview, FAFCA, Families of Faith, you need to listen to JB, you need to listen to the governor. A year later, all of a sudden they have found ways to force compliance. Nothing. This is insane. The state is talking out of both sides of their mouth within a 12-month period without anyone really even realizing it. So they're dragging schools into a courtroom in 2020. A year later, they're threatening kids through recognition, accreditation, school funding. There's this big checklist of how are we going to enforce compliance into these schools. And then to convince our attorneys, you wonder why, I know there's some really good people on some public school boards, and you wonder, why are they drinking the Kool-Aid? Why are they not willing to stand up? The school attorney world is broken. It is really broken. And an attorney, and God bless attorneys, we need them. I am not one. I play one occasionally. But we do need them. But man, they paint the worst case scenario all the time. So man, if the state's threatening funding, they're going to be like, you could lose your funding. You could lose your IHSA status. And they are our armor barriers in perpetuating this fear throughout the state, almost unintentionally, because it's just their nature to tell their clients everything that they could risk to lose. So then the board member is scared to death because if they lose X, Y, and Z, the school shuts down. But think about that for just a second, what I just said, right? So let's say Geneva loses their state accreditation. So it is your right to an education for your child, and now they're going to a school that is no longer accredited. So do you think the state is honestly just going to overnight bus all these kids to St. Charles or to Batavia? The practicality of it is an impossibility in small school districts, let alone these enormous school districts that don't have the means or methods to shore up the system that they're threatening to collapse. I don't think it would ever get to that point. So we again filed a lawsuit because we dodged them for a while. They kept asking. I can hear my attorney saying, you are under no legal obligation to respond. But it's at some point they're going to find out. So let's just let them know, no, we sent it. No, we're not complying. Again, surprise. I'm sure they were shocked at that one. A day later, we lost our recognition. They kicked us out of the IHSA, and they said, you're out. So as a private school, they weren't even offering the same status that they were public schools. Public schools, they were placing on probation, and then they can have time to remediate the situation. We were just out immediately. You read through the checklist of what it takes to actually be recognized, and they don't have the authority to do that. So we called them on it, and dragging our attorney across the finish line to get there, filed suit, went to Kendall County, and the judge agreed and granted us a temporary restraining order, reinstating us back into the good graces of the state of Illinois. That's the Parkview story. We are now in that case as we speak. We are protected by the TRO. We are 100% mask optional at Parkview, have been. It is such a normal experience right now. Right now, if you went to our upper campus, there are hundreds of people celebrating Christmas at a Christmas program for 1st to 5th grade. You would never know that this stuff is even an issue down in that school. So it is just such a blessing to have that ability to allow parents to actually be parents, right, and give them the ability to make the decisions for their sons and daughters. And it is an honor to represent the school in that. The state's doing crazy stuff. They lost, so they rewrote the rules. You know, and now they're trying to present that. I wish if I lost, I could rewrite my rule book, but I can't. The state is trying to rewrite the rule book that isn't approved by anybody, not even JCAR. So it's just a rule book that ISB rewrote, and now they're trying to implement through the schools under emergency status. So they're only good for 150 days anyway. So the whole thing is just nonsense, because what's to say, okay, those rules look good, and we say we'll dismiss this. They rewrote the rules once, they could rewrite them 24 hours later. So the whole thing's garbage. We are continuing the fight. We're not giving up. I am confident we will win ultimately. They do not, if you've ever been in courtrooms, you don't get a TRO. It's not like they're giving out candy. You really have to prove that you can win on the merits for the judge to give it to you. So it is awesome, just awesome that we have that. And man, we continually see all of our freedoms erode. And I got another great story, kind of. It's an analogy, if that's even the right word, maybe a little bit paralytic. Is that pluralistic for a parable? I have no idea. But hey, I used to build churches for about a decade. I loved it. And there was a consultant that would always tell me this story about change. And it was about a piano and a church, a long-standing church that has rich history with great generations in the pews. And there's the piano on the right side of the stage, and the pastor walks in, new pastor, and says, you know what, I would love if that piano was on the left side. So midweek, he just moves it, the whole thing, slides it right over. A week later, they have a congregational meeting, and they fire him, right? You can't move the piano overnight. The piano is there because it's been there for generations, and it is that's where it belongs. A new guy comes in, looks at the same piano, and says, I would love to have it on the left. So that week, he bumps it an inch. And the next week, service starts, he bumps it another inch, and another inch, and another inch. And months, maybe years later, the piano's on the left. Nobody notices. There's no congregational meeting. No one's getting fired. And that change happened little by little by little by little. And I just feel like that's almost, I'm guilty of that in my life, sitting back and watching the government take my freedoms little by little and moving, because they know if they took that piano and shoved it on the left, I would have been like, whoa, wait, no, we're not doing that. But man, little by little, Second Amendment, First Amendment, your kids, whatever it is, but you're just like, it's not too painful. I get to go home, watch my Netflix, and live on with life, and go to the park with my kids, or whatever we do. Now, post-COVID, they are flat out moving that piano aggressively, right? There's no more inch by inch. They are taking it from the right to the left to the hall, and ultimately to the dumpster. And I would equate that piano to our Constitution, right? Little by little, they are taking what we have as Americans, what is our inherent right, and moving it, not just a little, they are ripping it right out from our hands and taking it into the dumpster, because that is where they truly feel that it belongs. And it is sickening to me, and I just can't stand it anymore. It drives me nuts. And really that reason, kind of just to close this whole story up, that reason is why I even decided to get into this race as state representative. I mean, I love the 75th. I love Kendall County. I've been there forever. I love Illinois. I have my family. They're in Alabama. They're in Missouri. They're like, what the heck are you doing? Like, get out. Get the heck out. But this is my home, right? I have been here for a long time. My mother-in-law is here. It's Everybody Loves Raymond on my street. My parents literally live right next door to us. So, like, it is just what we call home. And man, to have that intruded and stripped, and then to be forced to leave, no, we need to win it back and reclaim it, and we can do it. That's why I'm running, pure and simple. And it is not complicated. I'm up against an incumbent. actually a Republican incumbent. And if you look at his record, it's horrific, and I plan to attack that record. But this is, you guys aren't in his district by any means. It's the 75th. So you're safe. It's a whole other race up here, which is just as important as the race there. Because I don't care if you're in district or out of district, every conservative, true conservative leader we can send to Springfield is a vote for the entire state of Illinois. So man, we need these people to win, people like me, people like Darren Bailey, or whoever you're considering for governor. Anyone other than J.B. Pritzker would be a huge improvement. We need victories. And man, I am seeing just a grassroots movement that is so empowering, and I am so excited to be a part of that. You know, a year ago, I don't know if you remember, this was really another tipping point. This is my closing story. There's a governor candidate who I'll leave nameless, you'll probably obviously know. He was a representative at the time. Now he's a senator, now he's running for governor, so I probably gave it away. So he's on the House floor, and he wants to make a position, just a statement, and say, I'm going to force you to vote me off the floor for not complying with the mask. It wasn't even a rule in the House. They had to literally redo the rules and then vote them into place so that then they could take the vote to remove him from the floor. The very next day, he put the mask on and went back to represent his people that had elected him to go there, because he's not just going to bail and not take part of any votes because of that rule. He was really trying to make a statement that the governor is way out of bounds and we can't allow this, and we need to stand up and call him on it. And all of the Democrats voted to remove him, and there was a handful of Republicans, only a few. One of them is my opponent, the current rep for the 75th. And that's when I was like, what is going on? We need new representation, and we need to maintain the line and send people who are fighters and who are willing to preserve the freedom and liberties that we love and enjoy and deserve through the Constitution. It is our rights, and we will defend them with our dying breath. So, man, thank you for having me.
Thank you, and that was exactly what we needed. We need more candidates. So we're going to have questions. Just 1 second. Let me grab the other mic here. You can see it,
Sure.
and I'll walk out with you. We'll do that. I missed you last time.
Hey Jed, it was nice talking to you before you came up to speak. Thanks for the time. So I met with our school board president on Monday, and some of the biggest challenges that we face is what's written in the law in the state of Illinois. And there's nothing more that we need than to get Illinois law out of our homes and out of our schools. Is that even possible? Can you rewrite the laws to where the issues that Parkview has been dealing with is no longer a law, so that our school board will no longer be afraid of the state? Is that a possibility as a state rep? Can that be changed?
Yeah, I want to say absolutely through the elections. We need to regain the governor's seat, and we need to send more conservatives to Springfield. A lot of the stuff that schools are dealing with, none of it was a law for Parkview. It was all these governor edicts through agencies. He was using ISB and the Department of Public Health as like bully clubs to force compliance. And they would, man, they stripped our stuff right away. Now, what you need is a school that knows that's going to happen and then be willing to stand up and win it back through the courts, because they legally can't do it. And I think we've proved it, but you have to have the courage to stand on the line and call them out on it.
Hi, Jed, Chris Lawson. It's so good to see you again.
Yeah.
And you're right about that Norwegian food. And New York is such a wonderful community.
Yeah.
Just fine people. I am for you. I believe that all of us are for you. How do we get in touch? Is there a website that we can go to? You know, I don't even need to know your opponent, but any incumbent who does what your incumbent, you know, the person who's there now, you do need to take them out. That's why God gave us primaries.
Yeah.
So well done. We're for you.
Thank you.
And where do we contact?
Yep. Yeah, thank you so much. My website is Jed. It's just J-E-D. It's actually my mom's initials. So it's plain and simple, just J-E-D, Jed for Freedom. It's F-O-R, not the number 4. So jedforfreedom.com. And the crazy thing in the state of Illinois, Darren was in the exact same, Darren Bailey was in the exact same position, and I had dinner with him. That the Republicans in this state, unfortunately, carry water for the Democrats over and over and over and over, like doubling your gas tax. My opponent voted to double the gas tax. Why? Because he was pulled into a back room and promised district dollars for votes on crazy things like charging you more at the pump when everything else is already out of control. So those people want to maintain the status quo Illinois, and they fund them heavily to maintain eating table scraps out of the Democrats, which just makes no sense to me whatsoever. So yeah, man, yeah, I'm with you. I was in a meeting last night where that's all we talked about, 4 people brainstorming that very issue. But man, so any help on the financial front or supporting on the volunteer front, we need it. We've got great momentum. We've got people behind us, but the more the better. So jedforfreedom.com.
Hey Jed, Brad Rush. My big takeaway was that the state didn't have the power to enforce their mandates whenever y'all practice civil disobedience. Mm-hmm. Without compliance by local law enforcement, local sheriff's offices, y'all stayed open and operated as y'all wanted to.
Yeah.
I think that concept also applies to the 10th Amendment from national mandates, laws, overstepping of bounds, constitutional bounds to the state. So as a state representative, how would you exercise the 10th Amendment to stop federal overreach in Illinois?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I want to make a couple important distinctions. One, nothing ever happened to us, right? People are so afraid sometimes to stand out because they feel that they're just going to get beat into the ground. And yeah, when I was sitting in my car in Sangamon County and we lost in August, it sucked, right? But nothing truly ever happened. No one showed up and chained up the school. We moved on with our life as day-to-day life. And so you just need the courage to stand up and push forward. And we have a Navy SEAL on our board who said if it ever did get chained up, he'd bring the bolt cutters. So like, we weren't going to back down, but we need the courageous people to stand up. The other thing, and I'll get to the 10th Amendment thing as well, but I forgot to note this. The state knew they were in the wrong because after we won and we had the courage to stand up, they went, I call it their naughty list. It's the schools that aren't complying. They went to that list and quietly overnight switched back all other private schools who had been unrecognized back to recognized. Those schools didn't have to hire an attorney, take them to court. They didn't have to do anything. So they won because we won because someone's willing to stand up and call it out. And on the federal level, I mean, can you imagine if we didn't have the 10th Amendment and we had our current president dictating how we should handle life? Thank the Lord for these courts that have really pushed him back and said, no, you're not allowed to do this. I mean, he's losing left and right and left and right, and God bless those courts and the way that our nation is established to keep people in their lanes. The federal government needs to stay in their lane, and the states absolutely need to stay in their lane, and both right now are way out of them. So we need to restripe them and re-corral them, and I will do whatever it takes, even if it's through the judicial branch or you name it, to remind the feds. I'm jealous of these states like Indiana and others who stood up and filed lawsuits right away, wishing my Illinois would have done that, knowing that it's not going to happen, but our future, we can be that state.
Illinois schools don't teach the Constitution.
Yeah, that
They don't.
wouldn't surprise me.
Kids out of high school know anything about what the 10th Amendment even means.
Yeah.
So they're going to college and then they're getting voted into office, and then no one is even recognizing it. Illinois is putting out a terrible product.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
All across the board.
I've seen tables. We spend more than all the other adjacent states, and our scores are worse than all the other adjacent states.
17 grand per child.
Yeah.
17 grand.
Hi, my name is Bill Roth, and I'm involved with Convention of States. I'm the district captain for District 49.
the floors. I couldn't move it.
And one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, what are your feelings on term limits? Because that's one of the things we're pushing for.
Oh, I would love term limits. Yeah, that would cure so many issues. Yeah, I'm all in. I mean, I'm 43. I'll be 44 in April, so I by no means I'm trying to be a career politician. So even for myself or for whoever, if we could just, it just is. I think President Trump coined it best, a swamp, and it is deep and wide and sickening.
Well, they wouldn't be lifetime politicians if the lobbyists and the bureaucrats and all that kind of crap,
Yeah.
all that money goes for them.
Yep.
We gotta stop that.
Thank you, Tim, for raising my mic. I can stand up. I don't know why I didn't think of that
Hi,
earlier.
Jed, over here. My name is
Yeah.
Dave Tomek. I want to thank you for coming. I love what you're saying. I believe everything you say about every district here is important, no matter where you live.
Yep.
We should be helping each other. I will go down to where you live and help you. I'm part of the Walk Away movement. I've helped Jeannie Axe and her campaign a lot of local.
Oh, yeah, great.
And I've knocked on doors, and let me tell you something. I've learned through Walk Away and by knocking on doors and talking to people. Most people are busy. They don't know what's going on. They don't know the people that they voted for to go down to Springfield or Washington. They don't even know how they're voting. They just know that, these people, like, and for instance, my state rep is Maura Hirschauer, my state senator is Karina Diaz. A lot of people voted for them because they're very, nice women. They can take a lot of nice pictures and go to school events and everything. But once they went down to Springfield, they have no idea what they voted for. They voted along Democrat, they fell in line with the rest of the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
Most people don't know we're losing residents every year. Most people don't know the pension issues that we have. How do we get information out to people in our local communities about what our, how people are voting, our state reps and state senators, and the information that they're hiding that the media won't let everybody know that's hurting the state of Illinois?
Yeah, great question. There is a great organization called the Illinois Family Institute. The executive director, David Smith, he is a great friend and a really good guy. Those guys keep like scorecards on reps, which I so appreciate because I've utilized it myself. It's one thing to stand up here and especially as a candidate and say, well, XYZ has voted for this and that, and then you're always cautious of believing any candidate. But man, they hold those people accountable when very few people are holding them accountable. So you could likely Google your senator's name, your state rep's name, and Illinois Family Institute, and you're gonna get a whole score sheet. And I have used that to educate people, like, hey, here's how your current senator has voted. Here's how your rep has voted. How does that make you feel? So man, it is a great tool, but man, we need to get out there. It drives me nuts as well that access to these people is so like almost a privilege. Like really, they're my rep. Why is it a privilege to talk to you? You're my rep, right? So man, to have access and to just burst through these dams that people have built around them, they need to come down, and the people need to have a voice that those reps can take to Springfield.
One thing, just a reminder, you didn't hear me in the beginning, Illinois Family Institute will be here February 17th to speak, so.
That'll be a great meeting. Don't miss it.
Max?
So how can we force the schools into going mask optional for private and public schools?
Yeah, love the question. Private, I have no idea why you wouldn't. I mean, after witnessing what we went through and knowing that we came out okay, I'm not sure what private schools are afraid of. I mean, just, it is really a challenge and it's an unfortunate thing. So it's a great question. You really need to, again, back to the school attorney world, you can put pressure on boards, but if you don't have a school board president or a superintendent or a majority of the members who are going to push that attorney almost into submission, you're not going to get the answer. It took me weeks, literally weeks, to finally get the answer out of her that I thought I should have got from the first time I asked the question. When she finally said, yes, you have a very strong case. I was like, well, thank you. Now let's file it and get it in, because I think we're going to win. So, man, we just need to continue to push, pressure, and it is annoying, but to be present and to let them know we're dealing with it in Oswego, we're dealing with it in Yorkville, and man, we send people in these meetings and school board elections. You used to think they never mattered. They matter more than you could ever dream, because they control what happens in the halls of your school. So groups like this can rise up candidates and push them out and get them on, and you will see change if you can get the school board changed.
Yeah, Jed, I'm so inspired by your story. Thank you so much. And I heard you use the word courage probably 6 times tonight. And I'm kind of reminded of like Joshua chapter 1, and he just says, be courageous, be strong, I will be with you. And I'm thinking about your windshield experience.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if you're comfortable, if you could just talk a little bit about what's going on in your relationship with God and how you're kind of growing and living through this.
Oh yeah, for sure. I am blessed to have Christian parents. My parents didn't have that blessing. My dad came from an alcoholic home, so he kind of reset the barometer in the household and raised me in a Christian environment. So I am truly blessed for that, and my faith is like so deeply convicted in my life that it just, faith and freedom, like I can't separate those two. I think they're so integral to one another. So yeah, I love that. Even the month of December, if you go on my Facebook Lives and stuff, politics are important. And here's my heart, right? Politics are definitely important because they impact us all. And not just me, but my kids, and then ultimately my grandkids. But we're talking generation or 2. What is really important is eternity. And man, the Christmas season and the Savior coming into the manger, I've taken the whole month off on pounding the drum on stuff of the insanity of our state and just been doing Advents on this. So this is who I am, and I'm not going to hide that in my race by any means. So God is thankfully with you in those low valleys as much as the highs. The highs are so much better. When we won that TRO, it was an amazing day. When we lost the year earlier, you just stared at your windshield and said, okay, now what? We're going home and we're going to move on. You continue to move forward. God will be with you. But man, it is just a one day at a time. I'm pretty sure Jesus said that, one day at a time, and you'll get there.
Hello. In private schools, as parents, what avenue do we have to access information since they do not have FOIA requests?
Yeah, probably very little. I'm trying to think. Yeah, because you can't FOIA the information and have it come out. So it really depends on how transparent are your leaders, how willing are they to be transparent. If anyone here is with a private school and you have kids enrolled in one, and man, I would love to talk to your superintendent. Our superintendent would love to talk to your superintendent and just share our journey. I mean, really, when we won, we sent out our filings to people. I mean, we're not trying to hold anything back. If you want to do it, here's literally the filings. Go, they're free, go and do it yourself. Like, we want to be a resource and an asset to people. So it's really going to come down, as all things in life, to the leadership of the institution and how transparent they're willing to be. It's kind of a sucky answer, isn't it? It'd be a lot easier if you could just say they got to give you everything. But
Did anybody else have any questions? Am I missing anyone?
Okay, sure. I guess.
So is Parkview reliant on state funding?
no, we're
And
not.
if so, okay. So what is their hold over you then? Is it, because they took you out of the IHSA and all that. If they don't fund you, then how do they have power over you?
Yeah, now we're recognized by them, and we wanted to be recognized by the state because pre-COVID, it actually provided legitimacy to the school, and I think there's still some legitimacy there because it's the state saying, yes, they meet a set of decent standards, none of them dealing with COVID, but decent standards, and yeah, we will recognize you. So we were recognized and we were a full member in the IHSA. And you've seen some other private schools come out really strong and say we're allowing optional stuff, and then 24 hours later totally backpedaling and saying no thank you. And as crazy as it sounds, what I feel it's all about is always the sports. Like, sports are such a thing for people, and when you lose that IHSA membership, you're almost saying that you're losing the hope of maybe being recruited.
Isn't it unconstitutional? Take you out by
Yeah, we're back in now. So,
No, I know that, but I'm just saying that if, you know, you're not reliant on the state for state
yeah,
funding.
it's insanity.
It is, it's so frustrating.
But it's the sports, and other schools do take some funding. I know some that use it for some of their special resources programming, so they're afraid of losing that. But I'm telling you, if these schools would just say no, they might lose it temporarily, but they'll win it back.
Hi, Ben.
Hello.
So we have an opportunity here in our area to possibly bring one of the Grace schools. I know you have a personal relationship with Pastor Randy, and he's the school in Shanahan, Illinois. I just wanted to hear from you, your experience along with your relationship with him. Do you think that's something that we can really fight for here in the Kane County, Tri-City area?
Yeah, anything Pastor Randy's involved in, he's got my full endorsement on all of that. So the two schools that stood up are Parkview and Families of Faith Christian Academy. FAFCA, founded and led by Pastor Randy. So I know the man well because we unfortunately spent many an hour in a courtroom together in all of this debacle. So he is a freedom fighter to the max on that front, and the exact same stance that I would take. They're out of Shanahan. They just started this new thing, Grace, of trying to grow and provide other avenues for education for parents. So man, God bless that movement. I hope it thrives and moves because we need school choice to some extent in this state. I would love way extent. But if we can get it through people like Pastor Randy, he's got my support and Parkview's full support on that for sure.
Any other questions?